Welcome to the 2024 open house for the Master's Program in Animals and Public Policy. We are looking at what will be the 29th class, 29th MAPP class. So the program started in the fall of 1995. Have graduated students ever since then. We even survived the COVID outbreak. We kept the program going. And we had, like everyone else, we had tough years, but we've continued to work with students and keep things going. So what that means is we now have close to 300 alumni who are out there in the world doing things and doing some really impressive things. So the way we'll format this morning is the faculty who are here will introduce themselves. So we have Shauna Dowling-Geyer, Megan Mueller, Jennifer Jackman. We will have Emily McCobb shortly, and they will introduce themselves. I will introduce myself kind of at the end. And so this is a chance for you to meet us and find out a little bit about what we do and what we work on as individuals, what our history is, how we got to where we are. Why don't we go ahead and start that? As I say, I will introduce myself at the end, and that will then transition into my general introduction to the program. We'll do that between about 12:20 or 12:30 and 12:50. We'll take a 10-minute break while I walk over to the classroom, and we'll resume at 1 with a session of our Animals and Society class and the wildlife module that I teach in particular. So, Shauna, why don't you start? If you wish, you can get it over with and leave us. Shauna is a little bit under the weather today.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. As Dr. Ruffberg said, I am battling a cold and my voice is not great. Sorry about that. So I teach in the MAPP program. I teach research methods 1 and 2, and the 2 animal behavior classes we have human dimensions of animal behavior in the fall and applied animal behavior in the spring. My background is I have my master's in clinical psychology, but my orientation is more in social psychology. I worked in market research, corporate market research for 14 years before discovering the world of animal welfare research. I did not know that I could combine my love of animals and my passion for research. So that was really exciting. And I transitioned over to the Animal Rescue League of Boston, leading the research program in their Center for Shelter Dogs program. After 5 years, that grant closed down and we were able to bring over that program. So a lot of my research and efforts are in the animal sheltering world, looking at animal and dog health in the shelter. We have recently rebranded or are in the process of rebranding Center for Shelter Dogs to be Collaborative for Shelter Dogs. So that will be something we'll be announcing this year. And really we're trying to help animals in shelters, but also support pet ownership. I'm also interested in human dimensions of wildlife. So feel free to email me if you have any questions about my particular research or expertise. Happy to discuss.
Jennifer?
Sure. I'm unmuted. Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Jackman. I am an adjunct with the program. I teach the spring public policy and public policy analysis class. I teach full-time. I'm a professor of political science at Salem State University, where I teach courses in American government, public policy law, and even a new public policy course on wildlife and public policy. Like Shauna, I made a a career shift towards animals. I spent several decades in leadership roles in the feminist movement, and including Director of Policy and Research for the Feminist Majority Foundation, which is based in Washington, D.C. And then I decided to make sort of a lateral shift to public policy and animals, which was a passion that I always had but had not pursued. And I did the MAPP program. I guess I was in probably the 10th class or something. I already had gotten my PhD in social policy, and then did the MAPP program, worked for HSUS for a couple of years, and then made another shift into academia and joined the faculty of Salem State University in 2008. And since 2010, I've been teaching the public policy analysis class for the MAPP program, which I enjoy immensely because I get to hang out with people who share my passion for animals and also for research, social science research related to animals. My research focus, which began when I was a student at MAPP, has been in human dimensions of wildlife. I started doing studies of attitudes towards coyotes on Cape Cod. That was actually my final project for the MAPP program. And I continued doing research on coyotes and have expanded into seals and sharks. So I have a particular interest in species that are at the center of controversies. And so my research projects are ones where I have worked collaboratively with Dr. Rutberg and with Shauna, as well as MAPP students. A number of MAPP students have worked with me on these various research projects, which has been just wonderful in terms of the research and the collaboration. I think I'll stop there, maybe.
Megan, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. My name is Megan Mueller, and I teach in a couple of different courses in the MAPP program. So along with Shauna, we co-teach Research Methods 1 in the fall semester, and I also teach the Human-Animal Interaction module, which is part of our Animals in Society 1 course in the fall, and also enjoy mentoring MAPP students on research projects as well. So my background is that I'm a developmental psychologist, and I study the psychology of human-animal interaction with a focus on children and families. And my research lab, which is here at the center, studies specifically the role of companion animals in mental health outcomes for teenagers. And we have a large NIH-funded study that is launching right now that we have some MAPP students that are involved in. So definitely enjoy any MAPP students who are interested in research in that area. I also help with the Tufts Pause for People program, which is the therapy animal organization here on campus. We are a chapter of the Pet Partners National Organization. And so we run team evaluations here on campus. And we also have some options for MAPP students to get involved in that as well. So I think that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Napier, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. India Napier, and I am a laboratory animal veterinarian along with my professorship here at Cummings. I graduated from the veterinary degree program in 2020, so I'm very familiar with the campus. And between then and now, I completed a residency at MIT focusing on lab animal medicine, essentially. I have a little bit of an non-traditional route to getting to vet school, where I engaged in a lot of biomedical research prior to attending veterinary school. And I think that's what had me learn more about the importance of veterinarians in the research space. So I lead the laboratory animal module that tends to be in the spring semester. This is my first time doing it this spring, as I was just hired on to Cummings about 6 months ago. So I'm really, really excited to embark on this. And so I'm hoping that I'm able to bring the perspective about human and animal interactions in the context of research, and how important it is for us that as a lab animal vet, my care of their welfare, their well-being, while also trying to do good science, because happy animals make good data. That's been published. It's my role to really focus and prioritize the animals' welfare, because that leads to developments of treatments and cures for both humans and animals. So really excited to share points of views of myself and other individuals in the research space to give that perspective from an animal public policy and bond perspective. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dr. McCobb, thank you for joining us.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little late. I had lots of back-to-back meetings today. Campus is a little icy. So I'm Dr. McCobb. I'm a veterinarian. I'm one of the core faculty members in the MAPP program. I'm also assistant director for the Center for Animals. I'm also an alum of the program. So with the MAPP students, I do a couple of things. I course direct the Animals and Society course, which is the course that Dr. Napier and the other modules are living in. So that's a big year-long survey of animal issues, and we sort of look at everything about the way we make policy, way that affects our animals, and we've divided that into the different sort of specific subject areas. Dr. Mueller and I do the companion animal module, and also with Shauna collaborate in everything having to do with pets for the program. I also teach an elective in the spring in animal welfare science that a lot of the students will take, and our first year veterinary students take it. I'm a veterinarian. I still do clinical medicine. I'm actually an anesthesiologist, so I still spend 1 day a week providing clinical anesthesia. And I also do research. Most of my research right now is in the area of accessible veterinary care. So basically looking at how we reshape our profession to make sure that we're serving all kinds of families, and also that we make it a profession that anybody, regardless of their background, would potentially go into. So that's kind of what I do. I wear a lot of different hats. I tend to work with the students that are interested in going on to vet school or have interest in shelter medicine or other sides of companion animal health, or are interested in accessible vet care specifically.
Okay, first, are there any questions for faculty members? Put your questions in the chat if you have them, or you can just unmute and speak since we're in meeting format here. Yeah, we have two additional faculty members who are not with us right now. One of them is Adam South, who is actually a graduate of the Arts and Sciences biology program at the Tufts main campus. And he is an ecologist by training and teaches our statistics courses with lots of good biological examples. And we're also missing Dr. Erin King-Podzoline, who is a large animal veterinarian who directs the food animal or production animal module for the Animals and Society class. And she may very well be on clinics today. But in any case, she has a strong interest in the welfare of farm animals, as well as policy issues that affect farm animals across the board.
I was going to say, Alan, I don't know if you had gone over kind of the ways that students typically engage with faculty. So because it's a pretty small program, you do tend to get to know the faculty really well. So most of us will be directly teaching you at least part of the time. And even if, there's 20 of you, we get to know the students pretty well just from the class contact, but we also have informal and formal mentorship built into the program. So we tend to assign mentors roughly based on your interest, but you're also free to sort of seek out any of the faculty as your interests tend to change throughout the program. So you'll find areas of alignment and synergy, and we tend to be really available. So either by email or just through like scheduling meetings with us. So you'll definitely be working one-on-one with some or all of us. And then as you move into some of the experiences of the program, whether it's the electives or the externships or doing research, that will further cement your relationship with mentorship. So I think that one-on-one interaction with faculty who are involved and responsive to is one of the unique benefits of this program.
And we're all pretty well connected within our fields. And so I think Dr. McCobb knows everybody, essentially.
And if I don't know them, then Alan knows them.
Right.
So we can definitely find people that if your interest is not represented on our core faculty or our the other faculty that we work with, we usually can find somebody around who is interested in what you're interested in. And
since you all are interested in animals, being on a veterinary school campus is extremely helpful because everyone here is interested in animals from a variety of mostly animal health viewpoints, but more broadly in terms of human-animal interactions. So it's a really good place to be. Other comments from the questions from students or other comments from the faculty before I let you go and start doing my little introductory spiel? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time. And you can contact any of us through Ginny. She can give you our emails, phone numbers. We're happy to meet with any and all of you, either by Zoom or if you're in the area, by in person. You can attend classes. Right. All emails are first name dot last name at tufts.edu. So there are a couple of odd ones, but that's a good guess on the first one. Right.
Alan?
Yes.
I actually I wanted to share with some of the folks. I think maybe some folks may be wondering, with me being a lab animal veterinarian, kind of what group of animals I possibly focus on, or how do I approach animal welfare? Do you mind if I take 1 minute to kind of address that a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering. So I'm really glad that they have the lab animal module, because I think it's very important for people to kind of get an idea about or to really lay the foundation with the students that is definitely a priority, not only from a regulatory law standpoint, as there's a lot of policy actually instilled in what I do that tries to ensure that animals are well taken care of. But in addition to that, we lab animal veterinarians try to go above and beyond. So we don't just try to hit the minimum standards that law tells us, but we try to go above and beyond with that. And with my line of work, I focus on a wide range of animals. So with my training, I've worked with non-human primates in improving animal welfare. I've worked with, of course, traditional rodents. Right now, being at a veterinary school, I also work with teaching animals. So that's broad in my my purview to teaching horses, teaching dogs, and other animals as well. And I've even worked with aquatics, avian species, you name it. So for me, I've focused on a wide range of different species to try to improve their animal welfare, and working with other lab animal veterinarians who may have a little bit more experience in aquatics or avian than I do, to really try to get that perspective. Because I think all of our philosophy is, even if it's in a research setting, the training that I have and others as veterinarians, whether it's has a private owner and it's coming through the small animal hospital and it's a rabbit privately owned, I'm going to use the same clinical acumen that I would use for that client-owned rabbit as I would do for a rabbit in a research setting. So there's a lot of research that focuses on improving welfare for these animals, so that good research can be done. So I wanted to kind of give people a little bit more context with that. And if I see you in the future, I would love to engage with students to really discuss and get perspectives and share our thoughts and values. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Any other additions from faculty?
Alan, can I ask a question now, or should I go after
Yeah.
you?
Oh, absolutely.
And I apologize to Virginia because she's fielded these questions from me via email, and thank you for the responses, Virginia. But I thought it might be a good opportunity just to ask the faculty. Without taking too much time, I'm trying to determine whether this is a good fit for me. Obviously, the reason I'm here is I do share with everyone else a concern for animal welfare. I'm deeply interested in it, but you know, my background professionally and yeah, it's been very corporate and mostly in finance and strategy, and trying to understand whether this program is very, very specific or very niche, or does it provide a very general introduction to you know, to animal welfare and the human-animal relationship, and from there you can hone it into something that is of more specific interest to yourself. So that's,
Yeah,
you know,
it's very broad, like you're saying, and I think Alan's going to cover a lot more about the content and what the classes are and what we cover in the next section of the open house. But yeah, the idea is we have people from a wide array of backgrounds in the program. So some people from the corporate world or the working world. We've had lawyers, we've had veterinarians, we've had people right out of undergrad, people that have worked in the policy field, people that have worked for other NGOs. We've had people from marketing, we've had economists, we've had researchers, we've had you know, a lot of shelter workers. And so it is a very broad feel how animal policy space works, what the laws and regulations are, what the different contexts are that people work, and then how human-animal interactions might play out in different contexts. And then within the program, the individual students will start to develop their own area of interest, kind of based on maybe a species, maybe it's a field, maybe it's related to veterinary medicine, maybe it's related to advocacy around a certain issue, or, you know, and even that could be ranging from broad to specific, could be wildlife or conservation based, or it could be around a specific human animal conflict or a particular species. So it's very adaptable in that way.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo what Emily said, as somebody who sort of did a mid-career transition into the program, because I had volunteered at a shelter, but I didn't have much animal policy background. But the program, I think in its design was in particularly designed to help sort of mid-career transitions of people that are sort of shifting into the animal policy space. And it really provides the broad depth that Emily describes. And it also really is an incredible networking opportunity for getting to know different people in the field at the faculty level, but also even among our alums, because now that the program has been around for 30 years, there's a very large alumni field that crosses different organizations, different disciplines, different interests. So it really provides you a broad understanding of different facets of animals and public policy that you can kind of figure out where you want to fit into that and just explore that, explore those different fields. So I think it might be a good opportunity. And as Emily said, I mean, we have had a lot of people come in with who are attorneys. I had a PhD, a lot of marketing people with other master's degrees. So it's a good way to explore and figure out where you can fit into the field and pursue your interests.
And the multiple
Yeah.
backgrounds make it really fun to teach too.
Sure.
So we do have plenty of students who come to us right out of college, but I would say majority have some experience either working in the animal field or as Dr. Jackman says, any sort of, we have had a number of outstanding career changers who have come to us from finance and from law.
Okay, wonderful. That's actually very helpful. And I'm
Yeah.
assuming that people who've graduated from this program, they've been able to draw on their past experience and sort of complemented that with what they've learned in this program to really like further their careers in this field. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can give an example about someone that was doing development work and then was able to pivot and do that kind of work, but in the animal space.
Makes sense.
I'd love to ask a question if it's okay. I'm a 10-year pediatrician and I have a master's in healthcare leadership. So I'm kind of assessing whether I need another master's degree. I do have a lot of interest in the role of animals in the therapeutic space within medicine, but specifically looking at bringing animals into the courtroom for children who are victims of abuse. And I wonder if the entire program is applicable to me, or if that's something that you do in facets and maybe there are parts of this. I obviously like another master's would be great. It's just a lot of investment for someone who has this much education. And I'm just curious about whether there are pieces of this that I would be able to access. And it may be for another discussion, but just, putting that out there as a question.
We don't have a lot of experience with people taking individual courses, but it's we are set up to do that. And so we could potentially accommodate that. Having said that, there's lots of interesting stuff in the program that would give a larger context to some of the animal therapeutic work. Megan, do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we definitely address animals in therapeutic settings in the human-animal interaction module, but I think as you've probably figured out, it's not the full program. The program is more broad than that. So I would say, and you're welcome to email me if you want to talk about this more, but I think it would really depend on what you're hoping to do after the program and whether or not this would be the right fit to get you to what you want to do next.
Yeah, if you can throw your specific last name. I'm sorry, it's hard to catch everybody's contact.
Sure, yep, I'll put my email in the chat. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
I think we have a question in the Q&A.
Yep, it's a question for Dr. Napier. Where have you or considered working outside of Tufts with your lab animal focus?
So it sounds like the question is asking where else would what other areas or where else I could work with the experience of lab animal medicine outside of Tufts, where I could or where I have. So I want to make sure I answer this correctly.
It sounds like where have you considered or
Both.
where have you worked?
Okay, so with my background, so I mentioned that I had a non-traditional background. So I started in the space of biomedical science is looking at reproductive biology, development of a contraceptive vaccine for the unknown CAP population. So my area really does stem from reproductive biology, reproductive endocrinology. So I do like to focus on that from a lab animal and animal welfare standpoint. So with mice, for example, we do a lot of repro studies for mice, whether we have to do some gene editing and then edit some genes, put it into an embryo and put that embryo into another mouse, things like that. So that has to do with reproductive medicine. And I do like to be in the space about pain management with that. I think that when it comes, anyone who has had a uterus and has had a menstrual cycle knows how painful those can be. And so messing with the repro system, even surgically, it's a very painful process. So I always like to make sure my animals have good pain control, and I'm always interested in looking at how to better control pain in those circumstances. So areas that I would consider moving into would be something revolving around that. I also mentioned that I had a background with non-human primates. There's also a lot of reproductive aspects in that. A lot of the older female monkeys, they get endometriosis and things like that. And again, trying to get good pain management is something that we're always trying to do better in terms of improving their welfare. So I also love working with non-human primates. So moving in the space of zoo, other research facilities that have non-human primates would be areas that I would consider moving in with that focus with reproductive medicine and trying to better that, because if we do it with our animals, that may translate into women's health as well. I hope I answered the question. Let me know if I need to elaborate.
Oh, I see. Thanks for answering my question. That was helpful. And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have another question that I think is probably for Emily.
We also have
Emily.
Alina has been raising their hand for a while. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. I am a veterinary technician, and I have a specific interest in sort of biomedical ethics. So I was wondering for specifically Dr. Napier, and I think ethics is like a pretty interdisciplinary field, but specifically, you know, from her perspective, kind of how does she bring ethics into her, or biomedical ethics specifically, into the work that she's doing right now and how she's teaching? Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Yeah, that's a hard one. So I think ethics, we tend to think of personal morals with that. Also, I use my training, and luckily there are times in which the law guides me and lays a foundation for how I proceed. So because I am a veterinarian, we already have that idea of ethics in mind, and we have those discussions, those talks, and a little bit of that training. And I also did some general practice as well. As you can probably imagine, having animals presented in the clinic where you're not sure when the last time the animal has seen a veterinarian, has it been years? They're in a situation, it's hard for the owner to make a decision. You're trying to help them make a decision. You can't make a decision for them. It needs to be a team effort, but you want to provide all the information you can for that owner to make the best decision for the animal and their family and for themselves. And I take those lessons and I also apply it to what I do in lab animal medicine. So there are laws and policy in place about the treatment of animals, and that usually gives me a good foundation. I also try to take any animals that present sick and try to think about in balance between the comfort and the welfare of that animal and the end goal as far as trying to complete research. There are times where it's difficult to kind of balance the two, especially if all the other stakeholders like the investigator and others may have different opinions. But typically I try to use facts as well as feelings and ethics and the law to kind of guide decisions and help others so that we can make a reasonable decision that is prioritizing the animal, as well as the goal of trying to get the research done. So I may not have given the best answer, but I do use ethics. I use the way I use the ethics to guide is that we try to do a balancing act where, okay, I'm going to treat this sick animal. I'm going to try this treatment. I'm going to try everything that I can. I'm going to consult other veterinarians too, maybe some exotic veterinarians that'll give me some other ideas. We give a timeline to it. And then I set standards. If this animal has lost 20% of body weight, we're going to go a different route and think about euthanasia or something like that. If the animal hits certain points, I try to make that very clear to the investigator so that there's an effort being made. If there's some sort of good that could come of it, like, try to collect tissues so that we can analyze the data that we worked hard to collect for 1 year. All of those things play a role in working with others so that we can, again, do what's best for the science as well as equally as well as for that animal. I hope that answered your question.
We do have a question about whether this is an appropriate program as preparation for veterinary school.
Did you want me to take that, Alan?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I think it's a great program to take if you're considering going to veterinary school. And what I have experienced I'm an alum of the 2002 program. So I have over 20 years experience with students in the program. And what I've really found is that students fall into two groups. They're either considering a veterinary track, but they were uncertain about it, or maybe their application wasn't as strong as they had hoped. Or they're a student that is pursuing veterinary medicine, but they don't really have a passion for individual animal health or population animal health. It's just that they love animals. And so when they considered careers in animals, people say, well, you should be a veterinarian. And so the program actually helps both of those students. So for students that realize that their passion really is animal health, the program makes you a better veterinarian because you understand the context for your work. You understand the other stakeholders like pet owners, vet technicians, policymakers, advocacy groups, the animal welfare space, and you understand kind of how veterinary medicine relates to those. And that sort of rich understanding of the history and the background behind issues that end up impacting clinical care makes you a better veterinarian and kind of builds your leadership skills. And then just really pragmatically, if you demonstrate success in graduate school, that strengthens your application and you're a more competitive candidate for veterinary school. And because we're out of vet school and we have people like Dr. Napier on our faculty, you can actually do hands-on work while you're in the MAPP program that strengthens your application. And then for that other population of students where they thought they wanted to go to vet school, but then they ran into like what almost kept me out of vet school, which was organic chemistry or calculus or something like that. And then you just aren't really sure what else is out there. It helps you realize what your true passion is. So for example, if you think about the work that Dr. Napier is involved in, one of the ways that many of our MAPP students have gotten involved is in IACUC compliance. So this is making sure that the researchers are following the regulations, which is obviously the lab animal vet's job, but her job is really more about evaluating the animal's physical state and providing appropriate medical care and making sure that pain is appropriately treated. It's not necessarily her job to make sure that all of the policies are being followed by everybody at the university. That's what IACUC compliance does. And so we've had a number of students, like over a dozen students, that go into IACUC compliance where they're really experts in all of the regulations for lab animals and then how the institution then makes sure that those are in place at their institution. So it's just a tiny example of a field that most people don't even know exists. But if you're passionate about animal welfare, it's a way that you can have a huge impact on a daily basis. As far as auditing the veterinary classes, that really isn't too possible just because of the conflicts in the curriculum. But what I will say is that sort of shared value system, which we actualize here through our signature opportunity, which is called Animal Welfare, Ethics, and Policy. And those are the core values of the MAPP program. And then we sort of bring them into the DVM program. So the reason why the DVM students, like Dr. Napier, when she was in school here, why they have to take ethics is because we have this core value. So we believe it's really important that all of our vet students get ethics. In the MAPP program, it's already baked into the curriculum. So it's part of our animal welfare classes. It's part of all of our modules where we will consider it from the law perspective, but also the ethical perspective. And we'll talk about different belief systems and why some folks feel this way and some folks feel that way. But at the end of the day, policy is about what can we regulate, what changes can we make, what protections are there, what can be passed. And so it has a very sort of pragmatic aspect at the end. And one of the really awesome things is that we can feel really differently about that. Like we can have different beliefs about what we can eat, what we can wear, what activities can be done, but we can still have a really constructive dialogue about moving things forward in the policy space.
Thanks. I think I probably should put off the questions now.
Hi, everybody. I'll give everybody a minute to plug in.
Yeah, I can do it.
This is the beginning of this is the second session of our wildlife module in the Animals and Society class. Again, Animals and Society is our core class. We have a couple of students who are struggling with weather and other issues this morning, so the class isn't quite complete, but these are the folks who've struggled in. We had a major snowstorm yesterday, which was a lot of work for everybody. So some of us are still recovering. So anyway, welcome to Animals and Society. What I'm going to talk about today is human-wildlife conflict, with the keeping in mind the goal of how do we treat wildlife better, which is certainly my personal goal. I think probably everybody else's goal here as well. There we go. So when people talk about human-wildlife conflict, they typically talk about it from the human perspective, right? So wildlife, free-roaming wildlife does a number of things that people don't like. So they threaten domestic and human and domestic animal health and safety, right? So we have our coyote there, and in much of North America, coyotes are famous for snatching small dogs and outdoor cats out of yards, but also in Western North America, they're legendary for killing sheep, but other small domestic animals. So that's a problem. Wildlife causes injuries and damage when cars collide with large animals. Around here, that's mostly white-tailed deer, but it is in other parts of the country, it's other kinds of deer, it's elk, it's moose, and about 150 people in the US are killed every year in collisions with wildlife. And the estimates of damage runs into the billions. We're also concerned about the way that wildlife can transmit or does transmit zoonotic diseases, which is to say infectious diseases that have a wildlife origin. So rabies, of course, is the most notorious and famous, but tuberculosis also goes back between wildlife and domestic animals and people. And there's a number of others that are, Ebola is another one. We also think about the economic damage that wildlife does. Right. So, as I say, they kill livestock, they damage crops. The USDA picture there is one of flocks and flocks and flocks of what are probably blackbirds and starlings that are descending on feedlots, and by the tens, by the hundreds of thousands, and eat things that we're growing for ourselves or our domestic livestock. They damage structures. There's a Couple trees that have been done in by beavers. But they do more than damage trees. They also flood roads, they flood culverts, they flood septic systems. They do a lot of damage. Ground squirrels, marmots, things like that dig into dams. And of course, they wreck roads and fences and damage ornamental plants as well. So they do a lot of economic damage. On the other hand, when we think about human-wildlife conflict, you also have to think a little bit, to be fair, about the wildlife perspective. What does wildlife think about humans? So humans and domestic animals, of course, kill wildlife in huge numbers. Some of that is deliberate, right? Predation through hunting, trapping, and fishing as matters of both policy and subsistence. Things that policy people would call incidental take, where we don't mean to kill animals, but we kill a lot. So collisions with vehicles, the millions of birds that are killed colliding with office buildings and city centers, poisoning, entanglement, outdoor cats, all kinds of things that kill a lot of wildlife. And then there's deliberate policy, which we'll talk about in another session mostly, but what's called animal damage control, which is dealing with coyotes and prairie dogs and urban geese on airports and all those kinds of things by killing a lot of animals that are deliberate, that are doing the damage. And of course, maybe the bigger impact is the impact that people have destroying the homes of wildlife, their habitats, degrading their food, degrading their water. So destroying and reconfiguring landscapes, right? Development writ large here, right? So replacing forests with housing development and taking farms and turning them into monocultures that we talked about that don't really support wildlife. Diverting productivity to feed domestic animals. I'll show you that in a minute. And of course, degrading and toxifying and polluting waterways. So all these things that people do hurt animals. And if you were a deer or a beaver, you would see this as something that was being done to you. You would see that as a conflict. As we're talking about human-wildlife conflict, we have to keep this whole perspective in mind. So this diagram comes from a paper that came out last year in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And it is a graphic that depicts the amount of biomass on Earth among different kinds of mammals. So the orange and the red are us. The orange is the biomass of people. The red is the biomass of our domestic animals, our domestic mammals. That doesn't include chickens, right? The little things in the corners, green and blue, are what's left of the wild. So when we think about human-wildlife conflict, that conflict is being fought over those little teeny boundaries that protect, that surround elephants and other wildlife. And in the case of marine mammals, whales, dolphins, seals, a couple of other things. I suspect polar bears wouldn't even be visible on this thing. So most productivity, most mammalian biomass on Earth, overwhelmingly is us and our animals. Our pigs, our dogs, our cows, our sheep, our cats. That's most of life on Earth, or mammalian life on Earth now. So I always like to keep that in mind. So, of course, human-wildlife conflict is not confined to North America, which is where I tend to work. One of the most challenging ones is human-elephant conflict. Let's see. Oops. So elephants are that little teeny corner. of, on the left-hand side, it's labeled elephants. So there's not a lot of elephant biomass left on Earth, but the elephants that are out there engage regularly with people. They eat crops, they kill people in significant numbers in both India and Africa, or Asia and Africa. And so they cause a lot of concerns in people that try or were asking to live with elephants. And of course, with elephants, there's also this obvious conservation challenge. At the same time, we would like elephants not to eat people's crops. We also don't want people to hurt elephants because there just aren't that many left. And elephants are highly valued. So there are a number of projects that are out there that are trying to mitigate conflicts between elephants and people, but we're talking survival stakes for both the people and for the elephants. And so the stakes are higher with elephants than they are for the animals that I tend to deal with, which is mostly deer and beavers and things like that. But we should keep that in mind. So my specialty is in urban wildlife conflicts in North America. There's a number of reasons for this. I talked on last week about, we have two basic problems here. We have some species that do really badly, a lot of species that do really badly in environments that are influenced by people, and other species that do exceptionally well in environments that are adapted, that are formed by people. So in this part of the world, in North America generally, we see a lot of deer. We see geese, we see beavers, we see coyotes, we see raccoons. We always see a bunch of wild animals that really thrive in human constructed environments. So if you think about geese are animals, geese are animals that like grass and they like water. And so they thrive on golf courses and parks and industrial parks and other places like that, right? And so same stories with beaver and same stories with deer. So in the issues with why urban wildlife conflicts are so serious are that we do have these opportunistic species that thrive in human environments. They tend to reproduce fast, they tend to be very adaptable in terms of what they eat and where they live. The ways that we have, the technical solutions for mitigating human wildlife conflicts are not very good. And part of that is because of money. There is no National Institute of Human Wildlife Conflicts. So the money to do this kind of research comes in little patches. And so there is a discipline that works on this, but it's not well funded. Not a lot of people do. As we'll talk about, the policy mechanisms for dealing with it are outdated. And we've talked about that a little bit last week, and we'll continue with that today. And the other issue is that people value wildlife in very different ways, right? So there are different approaches, different sets of ethics that people have in terms of how you deal appropriately with wildlife and how you frame wildlife and how you think about wildlife. And when you have those sorts of contrasts in different ways of thinking about animals, which is ubiquitous in urban environments, then that makes everything harder. So I'm going to talk about deer again. So, so there are sort of four things that people worry about with deer, four classes of things. The most serious is deer vehicle collisions. As I mentioned, there's probably 1.5 million deer vehicle collisions a year, maybe more in North America. 150 people killed, billions of dollars of damage, trauma, not to mention all the dead deer. The second thing, and it's second for a reason, is consumption of ornamental plantings, crops, and nursery plants. So that's actually my old house back in Maryland. And if you notice, there is nothing growing between about 3 feet in the ground because the deer stripped off everything I had there. Not unique to Maryland. I planted some mountain laurels this year, and the deer are making meals of them. So, but that turns out to be important. Of course, crop damage and people who own nurseries don't like deer because they cut directly into their livings. Undesirable ecological impacts. This is a tricky one, but deer at very, very high densities occupying forests, typically small patches of forest that are very visible to the public because they're parks, will also strip out everything below 4 feet. And so you can, I don't know if I have a picture here, but you get browse lines and you get levels where you don't see anything growing below 4 feet, except for typically non-native plants that deer don't eat and that people find undesirable. So they do have undesirable ecological impacts that can extend to bird, ground nesting birds, to small mammals, to amphibians, to all kinds of things. And then deer also are linked to Lyme disease. I just referring back to that diagram of that teeny little corner of wild terrestrial mammalian biomass. Over 12% of that is white-tailed deer. So that gives you an idea of how successful they are. They are about the most abundant mammal on the planet, except for our domestic animals and us. So urban deer is really difficult. So as I say, there are very few good tactics to mitigate deer impacts. The public is divided with respect to how humans relate to nature, and the policy mechanisms are off-break and outdated. Bambi is there for a reason. Bambi will come back. So with respect to solving these kinds of conflicts, there are 2 classes of approaches, right? So mitigation is the living with deer approach, right? So you're changing human behavior, asking people to drive more carefully, or to put up fences, or to protect their vegetation, or otherwise just deal with deer, okay? And there's a public education component to that as well. The other is deer population control. You can either change people or you can make deer fewer. With respect to mitigation, a lot of this is just sensible, right? So the statistics that I've seen suggest that about 60% of people who are killed in accidents with deer are riding motorcycles. Most of the rest are not wearing their seatbelts. So there's a certain amount of common sense to not hitting deer, right? You do all the things you should do to be a good driver. Wear your seatbelt. Yes.
Do those whistles that you can attach to your car, are those effective? Because as someone who hit a deer, it made me feel better to put those on afterwards, but I'm curious if there's any research that they work.
They do not work.
Okay, that's what I kind of.
But I'm glad they make you feel better. They are placebos.
I
placebos.
figured that's what it was.
They are.
Okay.
It's not even clear that they can hear them.
Okay.
And there's this sort of idea that animals are magic and can hear things that you can't. And some of them, of course, lots of animals can hear things you can't. But the other problem to that is that high frequency sounds, which those are supposed to produce, don't travel very far. Whereas low frequency sounds, like engine sounds and tire noise, travel a lot farther. So they can hear you because of your engine, not because of your whistles.
I've never heard of these deer. Like, what are these? It's just like a little plastic thing that you kind of like attach, and it's supposed to the wind. It's almost like the idea of like a dog whistle. That's what they say.
Right.
I had a feeling that it was not going to be true. But.
Yeah, but they only cost a few bucks, so why not, right?
Exactly.
So it's a low cost investment in a placebo. So so yeah, but sometimes they do really stupid things. Typically, they do stupid things in the fall, during hunting season, when they're being chased, or during the breeding season, when males are chasing females around. And then in May, June, when the young of the previous year are dispersing and are going places they don't know. In general, deer that plant themselves in a particular habitat, in a particular area, they know where the bugs are. And you can see them all the time, stopping, looking both ways, and crossing the street. Getting a little ahead of myself, but we had at one of our study sites, near you, at Hastings on Hudson, we had a deer, number 8, who had a home range on either side of the Sawmill Road Parkway. She would cross the Sawmill Road Parkway. We don't know when she did it or how she did it, but she knew how to do it, and she lived the entire time of our study.
That's like the scariest place to even just drive on, so
it's a terrifying road.
I can't even imagine how a deer survived crossing.
Yeah, but
Is it a lot of lanes?
right, but the point is they're
No,
actually very
it's-
smart.
It's just, it's really narrow and there's like 2 lanes on both sides, but it's just very narrow. And like one wrong thing, like you could like go off road or something, so like when you see deer, like people will slow down, cause some deer won't stop and they'll just go. But
Yeah, yeah.
like that one, yes.
Yeah. But again, slow down. Deer crossing signs don't work either for the most part. Anyway, but doing sensible driving things, not putting tasty deer plants in median divides is another way to, sensibly reduce these kinds of things. If you want to keep deer out of your yard, grow plants that they don't like that much. And almost any nursery will have a list of plants that are deer resistant. Typically, they're not perfectly deer resistant, but because if deer are hungry enough, they'll eat nearly anything. But again, you don't have to be dumb about it. If you have something you really want to protect, you have to, put a fence around it. And if you're in a part of the country where Lyme disease is a problem, be smart with your landscaping. Most Lyme disease apparently is picked up in people's yards, not out in the woods, probably because that's where people spend more time. But tighten your pants and your socks if you're going to be outside. Check yourself for ticks, all those kinds of things. And the other thing, of course, is don't feed them.
Yeah, my mom, we had a conversation when you said that earlier in the semester.
Yeah.
They have a lot of deer and they like hostas and.
They love hostas. I'll talk about hostas in a minute, but yeah.
This just came up to mind. Have you seen that I'm gonna say quotes that like zombie disease that's like affecting
Chronic wasting disease. Yeah.
What are has it? I don't really follow. That's just like something that I saw and it's like, oh, let me ask about it. Has it come to the East Coast? I know it's oh yeah.
Yeah, so chronic wasting disease is related to mad cow disease. It's the deer version of mad cow disease. No one has ever shown that specifically chronic wasting disease can be transmitted to people. Nevertheless, people are quite alarmed about it, and hunters are warned in areas where there is chronic wasting disease to be super careful about, if you harvest a deer and you're dressing it, be sure to wear rubber gloves and protective equipment and cook the heck out of anything that you may. Stay away from the nervous system, the central nervous system, things like that. So chronic wasting disease is a big concern for state wildlife agencies. It also scares hunters. So it's out there. It's not threatening deer populations by any means. Oh, they also get COVID. So again, and we know they get COVID because lots of deer have been antibody, including our lab here, John Runstat's lab, has run some of the titers on some of our blood samples from New York, and yeah, they have it. Or they've been exposed to it. Whether it actually makes them sick, nobody knows. There's never been any evidence that they've communicated back to people, but they clearly pick it up often because they have all sorts of different human strains of COVID. So there's some way that we are giving them COVID. Not clear that they're giving us.
That's weird.
Point that out, put that in the column of things that deer need to worry about us. Right now. So the mitigation things are common sense things, but they require work, right? They mean, putting netting over your blueberries and your other stuff and building fences and being mindful. There are repellents out there too, but they require repeated applications. They're just a lot of work. And people are people and have other things on their mind. And so, alternatively, there are various kinds of population control. So there's sort of two classes here. One class is public hunting, right? Every state has a deer hunting season. Our state runs from, I think, something like October 1st to the end of December. And there's archery hunting, and there's shotgun hunting, and there's muzzleloader hunting, and so there are all these different seasons. So that's one approach, which state agencies like, because they sell licenses and because that's their best tool. Then there are professional cults where you, in some fashion, you pay someone to kill a deer by some means or another. And the keys here are, one, you're paying somebody, and second of all, they get to break all the game laws. They get permits from the state, which allows them to hunt, to shoot at night, over bait, with spotlights, all kinds of things that public hunters can't do. So it potentially makes it much more efficient. Alternatively, there are various kinds of non-lethal population control. Surgical sterilization has been done on deer by a research group in Cornell and by a private company called White Buffalo. I think that's probably White Buffalo there in the picture. And it is extremely invasive, right? So you have to capture the animal, put it under, do surgery on it in the field, and then let it go. And so it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it's invasive. And also because once you let that deer go, if there's a problem, you can't access it again. He's running around free. The advantage, of course, is once the deer is sterilized, it's sterilized and won't reproduce again. So it has some sort of numerical advantages that way. There are also various kinds of injectable contraceptives, which is to say reversible contraceptives. So they are much less invasive. You may have to capture them, but you don't have to do surgery, you're just injecting them. Also, they can be delivered by dart. And so you don't always even have to capture them. But they all require some level of repeat treatments, which can be very challenging, again, on wild deer, because you've got to capture it, inject it, and then find it again some period later and treat it again, typically by dart. So this is what's out there. So the thing is, all deer population management is really hard in suburban environments, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing hunting or sharpshooting or some sort of surgical sterilization or contraception. And here's why. Okay, first of all, we live in up and down the East Coast and in many suburban rings around Midwestern cities like Chicago and Minneapolis and Iowa City. The conditions are great for deer population growth. You will always read in the newspaper, because that's the story, that the reason there are so many deer is that we wiped out all the natural predators and there's nothing controlling them. That's not actually the story. The story is that we have created an incredible food bonanza for deer. Right, and so if you look at like an older forest, all the productivity, all the things that deer could eat are way up out of reach. There's just not that much on the ground. So what we do is we cut down all those trees and then we plant a bunch of shrubs and small trees that they can reach. And then we water them and then we fertilize them. And so, in terms of some of those ecological impacts I was talking about earlier, in these little suburban parks or urban parks that have so many deer and are completely drowsed down to nothing, those deer aren't surviving because of the forest, they are surviving because they go out of the forest and into people's yards and eat the shrubs. That's what's keeping them going. That and acorns, but that's another story. So in Massachusetts, in Maryland, in Virginia, in Georgia, in South Carolina, we have created all these great habitats for deer. And so their numbers have risen astronomically over the last 50, 60 years. So this graph starts in 1966, roughly. And the black, this represents the deer harvest in the state of Massachusetts. And the numbers in the harvest, which is the only way they can measure deer numbers, have gone up and up and up. As I understand, 2023 was a bigger year yet. This goes to 2021. 2023 was a record-breaking harvest year. Yes?
What is a primitive method? Like, is that stabbing them or something? Like close range? Like,
Only in Alabama are you allowed to spear deer.
why is that not surprising? Of course.
So, at least that used to be the case, not that long ago. So, primitive weapons are muzzle loaders. So, they're like the things that you would have used in the 1840s.
Is that like black powder?
It's black powder, right?
Oh, got it, okay.
Right, so it's not a particularly effective way of hunting. But if you look at the whole total, the numbers are going up and up and up. And they're going up and up, not because they're not taking more. Obviously, predators, the hunters, are taking out 12,000, 14,000 deer a year. Ours are taking out a bunch more, but the numbers are still going up. So that's not what it is. Hunting has really severe limitations as a deer population control tool. All right, in Massachusetts, there are about 55,000 active hunters, of whom 80% are deer hunters. All right, so, and this is Mass Wildlife's estimate. So that is less than 1% of the population, right? We're what, 6.5 million people here. So only a teeny number of people actually hunt. And those numbers have fallen dramatically. They've gone down over the last 25 or 30 years. They've dropped by 50%. So fewer and fewer people are hunting. And there are more and more deer. So that's, that limits how effective hunting can be in controlling deer. Secondly, a lot of suburban land is not huntable. Right? There are places in parks, sometimes on golf courses, if they'll let you. Large properties, if you can get property owner permission, and so forth, where you can hunt. But what that means is there are lots of places that you cannot hunt. And then hunters on the lands that are left tend to be very restricted about what kinds of weapons they can use, when they can hunt, and how they can hunt. So, for example, in places like Westchester County, New York, or most of the eastern inside 495 or inside 95 towns here, you can only use archery hunting. And archery hunting is really inefficient. And again, you can only hunt certain times of day. You can't hunt on Sundays in Massachusetts, which they complain about. So Mass Wildlife has sort of been on a campaign to try to, well, jumping ahead a little bit. The towns go to Mass Wildlife, the Massachusetts Division of Fish and Wildlife, and say, "What, we have a deer problem, what can we do?" And they say, "We're hunting," because that's really almost the only tool that they have available to them. And so a lot of these little towns in Massachusetts have set up hunting in their conservation lands. And you look at the total numbers of deer that are harvested in these special hunts, and they're trivial. I mean, you're talking about populations of deer that are in the hundreds, maybe thousands, and they're taking out 15 females or 20 females or 10 females. They make no difference. So the other part of it is the inefficiency part. So especially if you're archery hunting, the average is about 20 days in the field for each deer you take. It's really hard. They're sitting in trees, they're waiting for deer to come by. If they're smart, they've psyched it out, they've scanned, they've looked to see where deer go, they put their tree stands in good places, but they're still sitting there for days without having a shot at a deer. So it's really hard. This is one of my favorite maps. This is a map from the Carlisle, Massachusetts town website, where it's a piece of the map, where they are talking about hunting deer in their conservation land to deal with their deer overabundance. And so the conservation land is in purple and red for the most part. Let's see. Right. And so you can't hunt there next to a hiking trail. So you need a 150-foot buffer on either side of the hiking trail, which is those white squiggles in the middle. The purple stuff are places that are too close to houses to hunt. And so the only areas that are left for hunting on this map are these little pieces of red. Those are huntable. And so I haven't actually done math, but it looks like that's 10 to 15% of the total land that's in this picture is huntable. And it's just really inefficient. So people have also looked at sharpshooting. Sharpshooting can be really effective if you can do it, if it can be done safely. And this looks at 4 townships in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, which are deer havens. And here they use sharpshooting to reduce the deer population initially, which they were very effective at, and then introduced hunting to try to stabilize and further reduce the populations. And what you see is this rapid decrease, and then they basically get stuck in year 2. At this level, that's the scale is deer per kilometer squared. That level, that asymptote, is 40 deer per square mile. If you ask Mass Wildlife, they say you should have 10 to 15 deer per square mile, maybe a little higher in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. But that's still probably, those numbers are probably 2 to 3 times what Pennsylvania Game Commission wants in terms of deer densities. So it works up to a point. And then there's this other problem. Remember, the deer are players too in this game. And male deer wander all over the place. They're always looking for females. They tend to, wander for miles and miles and miles, looking for females, looking for places that are safe. In the non-breeding season, they'll just go somewhere and hide for a while, but they're not particularly stable. Females, on the other hand, especially in suburbs and urban situations, they don't go anywhere. Most of them stay put where they were born. So I talked about this a little bit earlier, but what you find is that females give birth, their female offspring will stay with them for a couple of years and then bud off home ranges that are right next to theirs. And they will continue to associate forever afterwards. So the numbers I've seen, including from our own sites, is 70 to 90% of adult females live within a quarter of a mile of where they were born, quarter to a half a mile. And these are two deer actually from Hastings, two tagged deer. We had deer in Hastings that we tagged in 2014 that were still, again, within 100 yards of where we tagged them 7 years later. So, because population control for deer means controlling female numbers, because they're not regulated by male numbers, they're regulated by female numbers, you have to focus on the females. And it means that effectively all suburban deer management is super localized. So if we have, deer that live around the farm field over here, there are going to be different deer from the ones that live over by the pig farms.
So hunting in these conservation areas isn't really helping because we're not getting the deer that are in the neighborhoods and they're just mass reproducing in neighborhoods.
Right.
So that's.
And if you hunt in one park, you're not doing anything for the other park.
Is there like a method that people have to corral them like out of neighborhoods into the hunting areas so that they could be like
I think you should try that.
Is that like not a good
They're
idea?
way faster than you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you see from the, there are deer drives and things like that where they get sort of pushed out of places. But they're very bad for deer and they're very bad for neighborhoods. Our friends at Hastings have decided that they want to kick all the deer out of their main park area. So they are building a giant fence around it. And they want to drive all the deer out of the park onto the parkway and into people's neighborhoods so that they can restore the park. It probably won't go up.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they like to be where they are.
Oh, okay.
So, and they'll come back. If you, yeah, so yeah. Anyway. So then we have this issue, the final issue, which is the ethical issue, which is how people in urban areas feel about wildlife. And the most common sentiment you hear with deer is there are too many deer, but I don't want to see them killed. I like them, I don't want them to die. That is the closest thing to a consensus. However, there are also these other views, whose pictures I've been sprinkling around, which we talked about a little bit last week. There's a significant number of people who like wildlife but don't want wildlife on the streets, don't want wildlife in their yards, they don't want wildlife in their schoolyards, they don't want geese pooping on their lawns or in the schoolyards. And so they're often happy to get rid of deer. Often they don't want, again, they don't want to see them killed, but they don't want them in their yards, in their properties, in their domestic grounds. There is the hunting view, which I was describing there, which is that we've killed off all the natural predators and that our job as hunters is to replace the natural predators and restore the natural balance. That's not really strong in most of the urban communities I've worked with. There's always like a few, there are 20 hunters who feel that way. But because it's attractive to the state wildlife agencies, it gets maybe more play than it would otherwise. There's the Bambi people, right? So there are there are kind of two flavors of people who really, really, really want to protect deer. There's a group of people who make them pets, who name them, who feed them, who know them individually, who follow their family lives, who follow the family drama. Right, that's, you know, she's fighting with her sister and now they both have fawns and they're picking on each other's fawns. So that kind of thing is really common. Because again, these deer are spending their time in suburbs and they're going to the same places over and over again. So people see the same deer over and over again. So there's that flavor of don't hurt my deer. I love these deer, they are my pets. Then there is the animal rights sort of view, which is non-interventionist, which is that these are my pets, these are wildlife, don't touch them. We will only mess it up if we do any management. We have no business managing wildlife. And so when you have these different strains of views about the human place in nature, are we stewards? Should we have our hands off? Are we part of nature? Are deer our pets or are they wildlife? Should wildlife just have its own domain? Then it's a mess. Again, in the background of not having any really good solutions to begin with, in terms of technical solutions. So we talked about this last week. In the US and Canada, essentially, wildlife is managed by state wildlife agencies as a public trust, which is to say wildlife are considered resources that are owned by the public, and the state wildlife agency allocates these resources in a democratic fashion to the people. Okay. But with that paradigm, which is this sort of utilitarian paradigm, there actually is no mental space for deer are a pain. We love them, but they're a pain. And so those kinds of mindsets don't fit the tradition of state wildlife management. And as a result, there's very little state funding, very little staff, very little infrastructure for solving any urban wildlife conflicts, especially deer. And so what you end up with is that urban wildlife management, conflict resolution, ends up being delegated to local towns and cities and landowners, property owners. It becomes their problem. You come up with a plan and we, the state, will approve your plan or not. Okay, so I know the folks online have 2 minutes left. So the standard local mechanism for dealing with urban wildlife conflicts is somebody raises the issue, the town council, whatever the legislative body is, forms a deer committee. The deer committee collects information, they bring in experts sometimes, they hold public hearings, they weigh alternatives, and then they, with all this input, they make a plan. And they submit the plan to the town council, which then approves the plan. The council has to run this plan by the state wildlife agency because anything that gets done with wildlife in the state has to be approved by the state. And then the plan should be implemented. But it never works that way. Whoops. Okay, so because of all these issues, because people with different viewpoints interpret data differently, I used to do a whole lecture on this, and come up with a different story about it, they all come out with different policy prescriptions. So if you have somebody who does a survey and says there are 50 deer per square mile, if you don't want anything to happen for deer, you say, I don't believe this survey. Or you say, I don't care, I still like the deer, I don't think that's too many. So the different framings come up with different policy recommendations. And again, there's no consensus often. So this is the way these things actually play out. So usually there's a group of people who complain to the council, typically because they've just spent $20,000 on plantings and the deer have eaten them all. But that means those are people who can spend $20,000 on plantings, which means they tend to know the people on the council, they're power people. So they complain to the council tries to do something quiet on the side. People find out about it, get mad because either they don't approve or don't like the idea that it was done without anybody knowing about it. There's a lawsuit, there's articles in the press, there are angry letters to the editor. So then the council forms its deer committee. It's like, oh, okay, we won't do that. So the committee does all its things, carries out deer studies, maybe gives the plan to the council says no. Because they're under all sorts of pressure from somewhere. Then there may be a new council elected with new people who have different views. And I'm going through this right now. Again, it's like deja vu for the 50th time. So then the new deer committee recommends a plan to the new council and they maybe approve the plan, or maybe they send it back again because they're under all kinds of pressure. And maybe the state agency approves the plan and maybe it doesn't. There's not enough hunting in this plan. You need to open these areas to public hunting if we're gonna allow you to use sharpshooters or blah, blah, blah. Anyway, goes back, the whole thing goes again, then there's lawsuits, and then there's all kinds of other stuff. So, it's quite messy. You folks will get to hear about this. If you want to hear about deer contraception, you'll need to enroll, I guess. Or you can just Google me and you can find all the stuff I've written. But we have proposed deer contraception as an alternative. And it has some advantages. But we kind of need to drop off because I think we have a bunch of, oh, I see Bethany. Hi, Bethany. We have a group of alumni who are joining the prospects now. And so we are going to get off the Zoom and we will finish this ourselves. So,
Alan?
yeah.
It's me. You have 2 students who will be needing to Zoom in. So I made a Zoom link if you probably saw that pop up.
Oh,
You'll just need to switch.
Okay, so right. Okay, so I will get off of this Zoom meeting.
Jeez.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi, Jenny.
Who said that? There it is. Oh, hi, Bethany.
Oh, it's me.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
So good to see you. And Anne and Valerie. And I know Catherine's here. Oh, there she is. I haven't seen Ariel or Sharon pop on yet, but they should be shortly. But let's see. So, oh. Okay. So, welcome to the alumni section of the day. And usually we have the alums introduce themselves with who they are and their graduation date, current jobs, and the attendees can ask questions about, well, anything you want, basically. How does that sound? Good. Okay. Oh, and Sharon's here. Hi. Okay. Valerie, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Valerie Benke, and I was in the MAPP program a little while ago. I graduated in 2012, and I have worked shortly after graduation. I got a position with an organization called the Alliance for Contraception in Cats and Dogs. And I have been there for about 11 years now. So it's a nonprofit that works to advance non-surgical fertility control for cats and dogs. But there's a really interesting overlap between companion animals and wildlife and veterinary medicine and policy and animal welfare. So it kind of combines a lot of things that I did in the MAPP program.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi. So I'm Catherine Cummings. I had to think about it, even though it was pretty recent, but I graduated the MAPP program in 2021. And then I started my job literally 2 days after I finished at MAPP, and I began my PhD down at Auburn University in Alabama. I studied the human dimensions of chronic wasting disease, which is a disease in white-tailed deer. So I look at the human perspective of it, and then I also look at how state wildlife agencies are managing for it. I think that's all for now. I should be done hopefully this year.
Congratulations. Bethany, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Bethany DeZolt, and I graduated the MAPP program in 2022. And it still feels like forever ago, but then also not that long ago at the same time. So I graduated from the MAPP program, and just like Catherine, a couple days later, I was offered a position where I actually had my MAPP externship at the MSPCA. So it's the Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And I work in the advocacy department as the advocacy and community engagement coordinator. So I work on a lot of animal policies and laws, so lobbying at the Massachusetts State House, but then also teaching grassroots advocates about the legislation and how they can advance animal protection issues throughout Massachusetts and also federally.
Awesome. Thank you. Anne, would you like to go next?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. My name's Ann Linder. I graduated MAPP in 2014, I'm pretty sure. And I went to law school after that. I got my JD from Stanford. And right now I'm working as the Associate Director of Research and Policy at Harvard Law School's Animal Law and Policy program. I've been with them for the last 3 years. And for the last 2, I've been lucky enough to co-teach the animal law class for the MAPP program as well. So it's nice to meet you and be here with all of you today.
Thank you. Sharon, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I'm Sharon Kuka. I graduated the MAPP program in 2017. I'm currently working at the American Veterinary Medical Association. I'm an assistant director in their animal welfare division. So while there, I am primarily in charge of food animal welfare issues, specifically cattle, swine, and small ruminants. And I kind of assist our animal welfare committee as they update our policies or create new policies as needed. And I'm also in charge of our animal welfare assessment contest, which I really love because the past couple times I've gone, we've had students from the MAPP program, so it kind of makes me feel like I'm still connected to the program, and to be able to introduce them to other people in animal welfare and policy is really exciting for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Ariel, you're up.
All right. Hello. My name is Ariel Lefkowitz, and I graduated from the MAPP program in 2019. I did the research track while I was there, but I'm not doing research now. I work for the Humane Society Legislative Fund as their federal policy fellow, which means that I support both of the regulatory and legislative teams And I have been able to lobby at Capitol Hill and go to different congressional events and learn how the Humane Society advocates for animals on a federal level. This week, I officially accepted a position as the Puppy Mills Public Policy Specialist. So I will be staying at the Humane Society and just moving into the Companion Animals Department.
Congratulations, that's hot off the press. So we have like not too many people here. I think it would be fine to just unmute yourself and ask questions if you have any questions, if you'd like.
I'll go first if that's fine. I just have a question. Generally speaking, how did not for anyone in particular, but how did you all decide on the MAPP program?
I don't mind going first. Yes, thank you for asking that question. It's a very good one. So I decided to apply for the MAPP program during the pandemic, and I was still trying to figure everything out because people weren't hiring. So I had phone calls with a bunch of different people, like a lobbyist from HSUS. I was interning for the ASPCA, so they got me connected, and everyone said join the MAPP program. So after talking to people, and I remember that one of the alumni said to me specifically, they said, you need to do the MAPP program. It is life-changing. And I really thought she was being dramatic, because how can a program really be that life-changing? It's just a master's program. But then after going through the experience myself, it really was. I love the program. It's short, 1 year. So it isn't, a little intense because it's only 1 year long, but you get to take classes on all the subjects that you wouldn't be able to take elsewhere. It's a very unique program. You get direct interaction with your professors every single day. So you feel, you feel like everyone is there to help you and figure out exactly what you want to do and what your career and path should be. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, that's very helpful.
I'm happy to jump in too. I think for me, I knew I was interested in animal issues, but I didn't really know sort of what that meant or what that looked like as a career. And I was interested in all kinds of animal issues. So trying to take, what was really sort of a passion and turn it into a profession was something that I feel like I didn't really have the toolkit to do, especially, coming straight out of undergrad as I did. So for me, it was really helpful, one, to get kind of a 10,000 foot survey level view of what a career in animal protection looks like, which is different for each of us. But also just to have that space to step back and think about, within this field, where do I see myself fitting in? Where can I contribute? What types of animal issues are most, kind of close to home for me? So it was, I think, a great space for that kind of deep thinking at the same time, because you're constantly exposed to, different professionals working in the field and different kind of subject areas within the field of animal protection.
I would second what you just said, Anne. And in addition to that, I was really interested and was really loved the fact that the program is on a vet school campus. It just allows a lot of really interdisciplinary work and talking to people from all areas. And there's a conservation medicine program, and there's just can be a lot of interesting synergies and discussions that results from that. And I think that made and makes the MAPP program pretty unique.
I can totally second everything that's been said so far. I feel like I kept wanting to jump in, just saying how much in agreement I've been. A big attraction for me to the program was that it's such a small, tight-knit group that you go through all of these classes and all of these experiences together, rather than maybe a more traditional master's where you're kind of picking and choosing classes, kind of like what I do with my PhD. You're gaining, as everyone said, such a wide array of knowledge that you're not going to gain elsewhere. And I just found it to, yeah, be such a tight-knit group. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into research. So I felt like it was a good foot in the door without completely stepping into a research-based master's as well.
I see another question in the Q&A. How was your time during MAPP and what did you like the most?
I'm happy to go first on this one. So my time was wonderful. I was really certain that I was going to do the applied track when I went in. I remember when I went to the open house and got to talk to alumni there, one thing that they kept reiterating was keep an open mind because you might come in with one perspective or one thing that think you're definitely interested in, and then you take a class and all of a sudden you're doing something totally different. I stayed sort of within the realms of what I was interested in, but I think getting to do the research project was one of my favorite experiences, probably tied with the communicating policy class. So I chose the MAPP program because I had sort of a relatively common path for a lot of alumni, I think, of thinking I wanted to be a veterinarian, realizing that that was not the path for me. I went through a couple of different like jobs trying to find out how best I could work with animals. And then when I found the program, I was like, oh, yeah, all right, I can do this. I can work on animals' behalf. Although I will say that there were several people in my year who did go on to veterinary school after doing the MAPP program, and that there is a component to it that is helpful there because you're learning on all different sort of issue areas in animal welfare, that there are a lot of really good tie-ins for people who go into veterinary work, research, what have you. But yeah, the communicating policy class was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed being able to do like mock congressional hearings, and we had an assignment where we had to so you would like research an NGO and sort of think of how like it, for instance, if you were going to present testimony on cat decline, but then you had to act as if it was you were pro cat decline. So you had to like get into the mindset of that group, that perspective, and figure out their arguments. And I had a lot of fun with that. I really had a lot of fun with that. And it's really valuable because if you are interested in working in policy, you have to be able to think about the counter arguments that you're going to come up against and be able to expect those talking points, right? So that was definitely a lot of fun.
So my favorite part of the program, and I have a lot of wonderful experiences and things that I loved. But my favorite part was actually the mentorship program. So going into MAPP, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't positive. So I just absolutely loved how each student was given an faculty advisor based on their interests. So I have always been a dog lover. Dogs are my number one thing. So I was actually partnered with Dr. McCobb because she focuses a lot on companion animal issues. So because I was dog companion animal, I was given her. And then throughout the entire program, every single student had meetings with their advisor, and we decided, okay, what classes should I take, which electives, how's the program going, and then starting to think, okay, what track should I go on? Should I go on the advocacy track? Should I do more community outreach? And as I was trying to figure this out with Dr. McCobb, she gave me a lot of contacts and people to just talk to that were already in the field. So I talked to so many people and even went and volunteered with them for the day or met up with them to get a feel of what direction I wanted to go in. And then also the mentorship program helps you either get an externship or figuring out what you want to do for the research track. So my mentor, she knows the director of advocacy at the MSPCA, so my now boss, and she basically helped get me the internship, set up a meeting with the MSPCA, and then I got a job right after. So, it really helps you figure out your path, what career might be best for you, and just guiding you throughout the entire time, depending on your interest.
I guess I can reiterate what's been said, but there's definitely a lot of support in giving you this opportunity to rethink or think about what you want to do. So like I was a small animal vet and that was not really what I was passionate about. I wanted to do large animal welfare, but I didn't really know exactly what to do. And the program gave me an opportunity to take a step back and participate in these like thought exercises of looking at other people's point of view, challenging my own point of views. And it was done in a very respectful way. I felt that, everybody was always included. And even if you disagreed with people, it never got like mean or anything. So that was probably my favorite part, just having a moment to, challenge myself mentally and emotionally in a safe space with a small group of people that kind of made me feel welcomed. And then also supported me a lot. Like Dr. McCobb encouraged me to apply for the job I currently have today because I wasn't sure that I was qualified. She was like, "You're qualified, just do it." And I can't thank her enough for giving me that confidence to do that. But also just, I guess just having the time to think about what you want to do with your life. And I really appreciate that we still get emails about like different job opportunities that come up. Cause I mean, no matter how happy or unhappy you may be with your current job, it's always nice to know what else is out there and like, oh, maybe that might be a good next move. Or I didn't even know that career existed, but now I do. And you can even share that with other people that you might meet in your own field. So I think that's really just the support, and the challenge of it is really good.
I also really appreciate the updates on positions that are open and just having the community of all the alums of the program is really nice. Dr. McCobb has come up a couple times, and I also worked with her on my final project, and she also gave me a huge boost in confidence. I did research looking at the experiences of people who had used a reduced cost spay-neuter program for cats, and then wanted to sort of track where those cats came from, how they got into their lives, what happened in the years after they use the spay-neuter clinic, just to get a better sense of kind of the circulation of animals in the community. And I did my project, I wrote it up, and then Dr. McCobb said, "This can be published." And I was like, "Oh, no, it can't be published." And so it's like, okay, I'll turn it into a journal article. And then or a manuscript. And then she said, you should submit it to the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association. And my reaction was like, no, there's no way it's going to get published. And she was like, just try. And it was accepted. So she was just really great at giving that encouragement and support. And also, I think it speaks to the reputation of the program and the reputation of the people who are involved in the faculty. Another thing that I really liked is that I was able to do a project working with the veterinarian who was then the director of the conservation medicine program and went to Nepal for this summer and was able to work on a One Health project specifically focusing on rabies rabies reduction and population management, humane population management. So that was just that opened my eyes to this whole field of One Health. And that has been an interest of mine and a focus of mine ever since.
I think we got them all. Thank you. Let's see, the next question. Has anyone transitioned from another industry? And I'm thinking most of you were in animal related-ish or undergrad before this, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I actually studied international relations before attending the MAPP program. So I'm allergic to animals, so I knew I couldn't be a vet. But I loved them so much, and that's when I learned that I could still work with animals, or maybe not directly, but indirectly work with them. But all throughout school, I thought I was going to work in international relations, but whatever you studied, you can somehow tie it in to the program. The program is very flexible. So if you have an interest, you can choose a lot of your topics for essays, research projects, presentations on the topic area that you're most interested in and tie it in somehow. So I was able to connect, my international affairs degree to the program. And then it also just gave me a different perspective on policy work. And I think that's also one of the great things is that a lot of people I shared a class with, they came from all different backgrounds. Everyone had a different perspective. Some individuals worked in grant writing before. Another person in my class was a dental hygienist. It really doesn't matter if you do come from a different background. It just, I guess, everyone's sharing their own experiences just really enriches your time and strengthens the group of people you're with.
Thank you for sharing that and about the others in your class, because I have a whole list of alumni profiles, but not from everybody. So if you know people in your class also who also were career changers, that's good to hear too, because I know we have a couple people in this group today that are possible career changers or doing something in addition.
Well,
if anyone else.
I was going to say, famously, one of our professors, Martha Grace, is a great example of a career changer. She was a juvenile court judge for many, 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 many years, and I think when she, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's like a mandatory retirement age in Massachusetts, and that doesn't totally matter. But when she retired, she had been watching the MAPP program with a lot of interest and joined it, and is now one of the professors. And I think in my program, off the top of my head, a woman that I was close with, she worked a lot in sort of I want to say it was like marketing, like she was really good with design and like graphic design. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't believe she had worked in like for an animal welfare, animal protection organization before the program. And now where she it's Maha, I think she's currently with Mercy for Animals, I want to say, or animal protection. I can't remember, but I think yeah, she's doing really well. She's
Yeah, World Animal Protection Farming Campaign Manager.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and she's just like kind of a powerhouse of an alumni. And yeah, I know that there have been other career changers in the MAPP program for sure. And that is also, I think, one of the draws of the program itself, because again, you have that sort of just like high level overview, really challenging grad program where you are being asked to learn a lot. But it's all done in a way that like keeps you very engaged and makes you work really hard and think a lot and absorb a lot. But yeah, we're all biased, but for those of us who have gone through it, it's been worth it.
I think like a good thing to note, not that I was the career changer, but I had a woman who was in my class and she had 4 kids. She was a lawyer prior. And so I think like something really important that this program kind of is highlights and helps with is you can kind of do it at any stage in your career or at any point in your life. And I think these are all kind of like testimonials of that. Just something to keep in mind.
And I certainly don't think that, you know, if whoever asked this question or if anyone is sort of worried about being behind or not coming with, you know, the right sort of knowledge basis or amount of experience or anything like that, I think, you know, there are no prerequisites. I was a classics major. My ancient Latin and Greek helped me not at all, except maybe with scientific names of species or something like that. But, you know, it's really that everyone is kind of coming to it with their own unique set of experiences, and those are beneficial, whatever they are, even if you think they might not be related. So I wouldn't worry about you know, feeling like you're not at the right place or the same place as everyone else. I think it's a pretty level playing field, and everyone has something to contribute. And it's a great way if you are looking to pivot, going back to grad school for something short like this, and then applying, I think is a great way to do that.
Thank you. Let's see, and I can send the list I do have of the profiles so you can see what other people have done before the MAPP program. Into my follow-up. Let's see, another question. What did you do to help pay for attending the program? Did you work on campus, have another job, scholarships? I can answer the scholarships part a little bit from my perspective, that we do have some donors now who help a little with research, track projects, sometimes externship, travel, stuff like that. And now there is a diversity scholarship, 15,000 that people who are accepted into the master's programs apply for. There's one that's given out. So you can't count on it, but you can apply for it. And we don't have, you know, it's not like the vet school where we have 100 people that you're competing against, at least. So those are the scholarship situations. If you guys would like to talk about working or other ways that you've paid for it, I would love for your feedback.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind going first. I feel like I was kind of in a lucky situation because I started the program in like the midst of COVID. So while the pandemic was going on, I was able to like work and save up a bunch of money, which I was able to put towards my degree. And then I ended up just finding a local family in Westboro in like the general area there that I babysat for pretty much daily after my classes. Luckily, they had an infant, so I just had to go and I could go and do homework as long as the baby was sleeping, which was great. And then I actually did the externship route, but I ended up getting paid for my externship, which is something to keep in mind that there are some that do pay. I'm not sure if they all do, but it was nice. Again, I was able to like stay in the area, get paid for my externship, still babysit, and just kind of make ends meet. And I know that there's like housing in the area that's like relatively inexpensive, at least when I was there. I know that there were some people that lived together, whether that was with vet students or other people in the MAPP program to kind of help reduce cost of living.
And there were also some people in my class who commuted from quite a distance away. If they already had a house, in one case, somebody had taught English at a college in Western Massachusetts and was doing a career change. She had a home, so she commuted and occasionally, like if there was a snowstorm, she would stay with me overnight to avoid that commute. And a couple other people had apartments with partners or roommates that were a little ways away, and they were able to commute. So at least it didn't involve kind of uprooting and having another expense of housing.
Yes, so while I was in the program, I lived with actually my classmate, and we got really lucky. We were in North Grafton, and our apartment was relatively inexpensive. And then I had student loans, still paying off the federal student loan. So I'm originally from New Jersey, and I was able to do part of my student loans through my state. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was because like the interest rate was a little bit better. That one is totally paid off, which is nice. While I was a student, I worked at the library on campus. And yeah, if that job is available, highly recommend it. The librarians are a wonderful group of women. And it's also a place where it's relatively easy to do homework while you're in between reshelving books or what have you. And I'm just trying to think of examples from my class. So I know that there were a couple of people in my class who were from Massachusetts, so they did commute. And most other people, I think, had apartments in the area, but I'm a huge fan of spreadsheets, so I had like a whole budget of how my student loans, because my student loans helped pay for like everything. So I had because I paid off interest while I was in the program. So I had a whole budget of how I was going to make those payments and do groceries and eat out once in a while and yeah, commute actually back and forth to New Jersey because I was planning a wedding at the time. So
I would just add that I don't know of anybody in my class or other classes who worked full-time or even approaching full-time while doing the program. I think a lot of people had part-time positions, but at least when I did that it was not possible to do that and really get the full experience from the program. So I think everybody sort of embraced it.
Yeah, that's actually really
needed, and then
that's a really good point. I think anything is possible, right? But like it would be very difficult, I think, to get the most out of the program if you were working full time. Because it does require a lot. It does require a lot. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of writing, you know, different assignments that you have to spend a lot of time on. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there is like a handful of examples of people who worked full time and did the program and did swimmingly. But you know, they could be, it's probably like mental status with the Olympic athletes, you know, like it's just a special case of person.
Vikram, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's actually for you, Virginia. It seems like it's a I think the metric that was shown when Dr. Allen was talking was there's 300 alums. So it seems like it's a small group. So generally speaking, what's this average size of the incoming class in previous years?
Let's see. I know it sounds like a small group, but it's actually it's a small world of animal people out there. So it feels like everywhere you go, you might bump into a MAPP alum or get help from a MAPP alum. But let's see. The incoming classes, we actually I would say 15 to 18. We maxed out at 18.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Faculty are strongly support maxing out at 18. So those are the larger class sizes, if that helps.
Oh yeah, no, that does, because when you think of incoming classes like for undergrad or grad, you're talking like hundreds and hundreds of students depending upon where you go. So this is a very, very cozy group, so to speak. So
it is. Yeah, we're at a vet school, so there is about 100 per class there.
Sure.
And I know that there's a bit of interaction with the vet students, but we don't have classes with them very often. Sometimes actually they can join the electives. You probably have seen.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome.
Just in terms of mention of joining classes and interacting with the vet students, there is also the opportunity to join clubs. And I was able to do that, the Animal Welfare Club, I think that was the name. But it was really interesting to do that with the vet students. And there was a lot of good discussion that came as a result of that.
Those are good opportunities, I agree.
Can I ask another question? Sorry, I don't want to monopolize, but I'll wait for if someone else has a question.
There's a few in the Q&A.
Oh, I'll go later.
Are you sure?
I can totally wait. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Or write it in the Q&A so that we don't forget.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody asked what your research projects look like.
I can kind of talk on this, even though I wasn't on the research track. I was lucky enough to work with Dr. Jennifer Jackman on a federal research study that she had. So we looked at human dimensions of rebounding populations of seals and white sharks on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So it was a 3-part study. It looked at Cape Cod residents, Cape Cod visitors, and Cape Cod commercial fishermen's perceptions towards those rebounding populations, because it can be quite controversial. And Dr. Jackman completely set me up to run the commercial fishermen side of that study. So that was sending out like thousands and thousands of mail out surveys to commercial fishermen all over Cape Cod and analyzing the data for her, gathering it all. She just kind of gave me a whole third of the project and let me run with it, which I really appreciated. And she also let me work on the other sides of the project, kind of where assistance was needed, So I was able to travel to Cape Cod and interact with locals and tourists and kind of gather their perceptions and get them to participate in our survey. I think that was like a really great experience for me because I didn't have to entirely come up with a research project and make sure that, you know, everything was valid before I went into the field to do it myself. Um, and I don't know, it was just a really interesting project to be a part of. And I'm glad I got to do that as my externship as someone who is like somewhat interested in research, but I wasn't sure. It definitely solidified my desire to do research.
Yeah, so I was on the research track, although I did not think I was going to be. I mentioned before that I was gung-ho on doing an externship when I came in, but in the, I think it's the research methods class with Shauna and Megan, Shauna Dowling-Geiler and Megan Muller, just to say their full names. Yeah, so anyway, so I basically ended up doing a small version of what my research project came to be and was just like very excited by the topic and couldn't let it go without doing it in full. So I looked at people's perceptions of pit bull type dogs, and I did a qualitative and quantitative project, which listen, it's possible, but I don't necessarily recommend it because it is time limited and, you know, just if you are interested in research project, like really think if the I can't think of the word, but if the qualitative quantitative combined is what you want to do. So I ran a survey where we created a fake news article about a dog bite related incident. And in some of the conditions, we told people what type of dog it is. In some cases, we gave them a photo. And in the final condition, we gave them no information, just that it was a mixed breed dog and there was no photo. Essentially, what I wanted to see was, would people fill in the blank with pit bull? Is the negative schema, is this negative stereotype of pit bull type dogs and the association of them with dog bites so strong that people will just automatically add in that information? And Shauna and I are actually still working on that. So Shauna Dowling-Geier was my mentor. She was also my research advisor, because pit bull type dogs, how this sort of relates to the sheltering world, right up her alley. And we redid the quantitative survey, and we are still working on that data because the plan is to get it published in Anthrozoos, so we'll see if that happens. And then as for the qualitative part, I interviewed people in Massachusetts and New Jersey on their experiences with dogs in general and their experiences with pit bulls specifically. And yeah, wanted to try and draw out whether there were like anything that they had in common and things like that. So it was really cool because I think you know, we got a lot of people who were pro pit bull, and sort of like at a certain point in the survey, they were like, I really hope you're not trying to like do bad by pit bulls. We got a lot of comments of that, and it was really interesting, like reading.
I feel like as soon as I say something, Ariel will come back.
This undercurrent of awareness of like the myths of pit bulls, even if they have a positive perception of them, was really interesting. So yeah, let me not talk about that for an hour because I know we're time limited.
anyone else want to talk about their research track?
Sure, I can go. I mentioned that I looked at the clinic that sterilized and subsidized clinic sterilized cats, pet cats, and that was, I was able to publish that. But I thought that it was really cool that and wonderful that there was support for me doing 2 projects, because I honestly couldn't decide which I wanted to do, and they were both really exciting and really appealing. There was also the travel to Nepal, and that was a funded study where I was basically a research assistant funded but with a grant to survey different members of the community about population management of dogs and rabies control. And with that, it was also great because there's sort of this broad assignment to look at this particular question, but I had a lot of freedom and flexibility to design the study with appropriate support from the veterinarian who tasked me with the project. And it was a really nice combination of support and growth. And I think that is true for all of the faculty in the program.
I think, sorry, I don't mean to jump back in, but I think another important thing to highlight is even if you don't do the research track, from my memory, I think it's from the research methods class, and at least my year we did this. But we did like a group assignment where we created a survey and sent it out to a bunch of people and then analyzed the data. So you still learn all of the skills of how to create and analyze research data without even going down that track, which I think is also a really important thing to learn regardless of which track you go down.
Oh, right. Research methods 1 is part of
okay, yeah, I couldn't remember.
Everybody's first semester. And then if you do, so basically the research track versus the applied track, you can do research in the applied track for your project, but it's usually somebody else's research, whereas you do the research track, it's your own research that you can possibly publish yourself, get your name on it, kind of thing. I hope that helps. Let's see, somebody else asked, I can see how both the applied track and research track could work well with my current interests. What are the pros and cons of choosing the applied versus the research track? I don't know if I just answered that, but if you have
I was just going to say, I think it will just depend on kind of where your interests lie as you go through the program. Because I came in like, oh, I'm doing the research track, and then the more, as the closer it got to having to have, this research proposal submitted, it just kind of dawned on me like, oh, maybe this isn't the track I want to go down, but I'm interested in research, but I still want to gain all the skills. So that's kind of why I went down the applied track, but still did a research project. And your mentor like totally helps you figure that out. I had Dr. Alan Rutberg as my mentor, and like he totally was here and helped me through all of it and set me up with my externship. So I think it was pretty great.
Yeah, the applied versus research is something that I agonized over with Shauna for a while before I decided on my research. And I think, well, like Catherine said, it depends on your interests. It depends on what you think your goals might be, like in terms of what you want to get out of the program and what you hope to do afterwards. But I mean, you can make either track work. Like if you want to work for a nonprofit organization or something that you think the internship would really help you for, you could still, again, depending on what your research project is, you could make that work for you could make that work for a track that might have been applicable to the applied track, right? I think that the research project, it shows that you're passionate about a specific issue. Depending on the organizations that you're applying to, maybe you could present yourself as some sort of expert in that area. You know, I have made a lot of friends and had a lot of like fun connections and heart-to-hearts with people because I am kind of obsessed with the pit bull type dog thing. And like that overlaps with, you know, housing issues and equity issues and all kind, like it's a whole world that it connects to. And if you can see those connections and make them, and also like market yourself as someone who is really good at going into those details, really good at analysis, that those are applicable anywhere. But then on the other hand, the applied track is going to give you that hands-on experience with an organization that may become your permanent job after the grad program is over. And yeah, it's all things that you have to weigh, and I literally did literally did all of those pros and cons with Shauna, and was still worried that like it might not work. But yeah, it's been all right. It's been all right.
And just to summarize this, know that you do not have to decide right now. You do not have to decide at all going into the program. You can even talk with your advisor and say, I'm going to do the research track, or I'm going to, you know, do the applied track, and then change your mind. You do not have to decide anything right now. So just go into it, you know, just take it day by day, figure it out, what you're passionate about, what topic you might be interested in. And like everyone said, you just continually have these conversations with all of your professors and your mentor. So I hope that, you know, eases some people's anxiety about it, because I really did think, okay, I have to go into this. I need to know exactly what I'm interested in, what route I want to take so I get the most out of the program. You don't need to. Everyone helps you figure it out.
Love it. Well said. We have a number of questions left, and it's almost 3. And I see Dr. Rutberg's here. So I can share these questions with you guys by email later if you want to answer any of them, and I can get back to all the registrants that way, if that's okay. Hi, Dr. Rutberg.
Also, I'll say I'm like more than happy if anyone wants to like email me to have any questions, or like message me on LinkedIn or anything like that. I'm sure everyone here also agrees with that. But everything should be on the MAPP website, and you should just be able to search our names on LinkedIn. But feel free at any point.
And you can always email me, and I'll just forward you to the alums as well.
Also, I have no idea sort of what the schedule is or where we are in the day, but I'm more than happy to stay on too if there are additional questions, or find another time to talk over Zoom too.
Thank you, Anne. I don't know. There you are.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, so it's your schedule. Phew. Are there any questions that are left over from the morning, the noon session, or the class?
There was the question about, would this be a good program for someone looking into veterinary social work or similar studies? And I don't know if you know that, or if I should run that by Emily.
I think you should run that by Emily.
Okay. So that'll be in a follow-up email.
Okay. Well, thank you, alumni. You're always the ones who are most convincing
Anyway, if any of you have any questions for any of us, please let us know. It was nice to see a lot of the faculty and you asking questions of the faculty this morning or at noon. It's a really good bunch of people. And again, aside from the ones that you met this morning, we really have the whole vet school and to some extent the whole university at our fingertips. And so we bring people in from all over. And it's a really nice community. And the alumni are a big part of our community. A lot of what makes the program worthwhile is the students who you are with and sharing ideas and sharing experiences with them. And to some extent, we're facilitators. We arrange things for you and give you opportunities and help you all interact with each other and with us. We give you stuff to talk about for sure. But we all really enjoy teaching in this program. I've been here for 23 years, something like that. Emily has been involved with the program. Again, she was actually a student my second year as a MAPP student, but she was already a DVM at that point. So she has very deep roots in the school. So we really like it here. It's a really good place to be. It's a lovely, right now it's gorgeous because we've got snow all over everything. It just looks beautiful. But it's a nice place to work. If you like the outdoors and natural areas, there's lots of hiking, boating, all kinds of outdoor recreation nearby. Worcester is nearby, and Worcester is doing quite well these days and becoming more and more interesting as a visiting place. And of course, you're 45 minutes from Boston, so far enough so that the prices are not quite Boston prices, but close enough that you have access to it. And it's a very cool city. So anyway, any closing thoughts or questions? Any of the alums think of something that they wanted to say? We do have great alums. I mean, that's one of the most fun parts of this whole thing is watching where these people go and what they do, and they stay very connected. I mean, I know what you're all doing, and many come back, as Anne has done, to teach, as Jennifer Jackman has done, as Martha Grace has done, and really share a lot with the students and with the rest of us too. So, Val.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you're considering the program and thinking about employment opportunities after, the network of MAPP alums is strong for employment, and it's amazing sort of how often I run into alums of the program in the course of my day-to-day work. So that is a huge strength of the program.
Yeah, that's literally what I was unmuting to say. Is that after I graduated, I talked to a lot of MAPP alumni, and still talk to a lot of MAPP alumni. So when I graduated, I got a different job than I have now, and I moved to DC because I wanted to be in the room where it happens, because I cannot pass up using that Hamilton reference. And I reached out to MAPP alumni that are currently in DC that are working on at Capitol Hill or that work for Animal Welfare Institute or have worked for the Humane Society or wherever. Yeah, they are all over the place. And a lot more organizations in the space have heard of our program, and have only ever had positive things to say about it and really respect the results of the graduates that the MAPP program produces. So yeah, you know, I'm also one of those people that am willing to be part of that helpful network. So yeah, you know, find me through Ginny or through LinkedIn, and yeah, I'm always happy to talk about the program or however else I can be helpful.
Also, I know we have said a lot of positive things about the program and talked about how amazing it is. And I promise we are not just trying to promote the program and we're getting paid for it. I promise I'm not making a cent from speaking today. None of us are. We are all taking time out of our schedule because we had such an amazing experience. So even though it might be like we're trying to convince you to go, we're not really trying to convince you. We're just sharing our experience and saying, this is amazing, you should do it.
Oh, Carla, do you have a question?
All right.
Maybe not. But Bethany, it's funny you say that because I was literally just thinking, it sounds like we pay you guys to say these things. We really don't. Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And again, we would love to see your applications February 1st or April 3rd. And we're excited about seeing a bunch of you next year. Again, feel free to drop in, visit, call. We are here for you as we are for all our students and all our alums. So we hope you will join our community.